Hi, I'm Yomas. I'm gonna make a video talking about Zac's rework, something I wanted to do ever since May 2017. So let's jump into it. As you may know, in May 2017, the dreaded tank rework hit live servers. In this patch, they reworked Zac, Sejuani, and Maokai. And as the topic of this video, we're obviously gonna be talking about the Zac rework. Or more specifically, why it should be reverted. Because as you might know, recent news has it that Zac is finally getting reverted. Riot are testing out a reverted version of his ultimate on the patch 9.10. This was first confirmed by Riot's graphic when he made a post called Post MSI Gameplay Improvements, where he confirmed that Zac, among other champions, are getting worked on. So what qualifies me to argue or speak about these Zac changes? Here's my resume. Zac was my love at first sight champion when he was released in 2013. I instantly liked his team, abilities, personality and role. I rushed to purchase him with RP and became a first champion that I actually bought with RP. So yeah, I played Zac since his day one of his release. I played him mostly top in the beginning, but I quickly transitioned to become a jungle main, as somewhat of a Zac one trick. Zac took me from bronze in season 3 to silver in the same season. I maintained a 51% win rate in season 3 with 110 games. Later in season 4 he took me to gold, also 100 games but with a 64% win rate. In season 5 he took me from gold and straight into diamond, peaking at diamond 4 that season. I had a 61% win rate with 206 games. Somewhere between season 4 and 5 I started spectating the best Zac players around, or the best one tricks as you might call them. Those two players I spectated were called Arrows of Alfar and Maximus. In season 6 I peaked at diamond 3 and stayed between diamond 3 and diamond 5. Season 6 stats was 61% win rate in 178 games. That was by far my most successful season with Zac. In season 7 my stats was 60% win rate in 154 games. My win rate heavily tanked after the rework though, so I've only peaked at diamond 3, but after May I struggled to even stay above diamond. In season 8 my stats was a 49% win rate in 88 games. I was diamond for most of the season until the very end, where I dropped to platinum. And my season 9 stats so far is 42% win rate in 19 games, playing only 2 or 3 of those games as a jungler. I'm currently juggling between Plat 1 and 2. I reached Diamond almost 3 times though. Season 9 is the first season I haven't played Zac as my most played champion. Currently he's my third most played champion behind Thresh and Braum. Since mid season 7-ish I've struggled staying motivated as a Zac player, and the champion kept making me depressed in game wise. Since late 2017 or early 2018 I realized that I needed to change up things and decided to play many more champions. Although I've always had a big champion pool and played many roles, but I never really leaned towards any mains outside of Zac. So that's my history with Zac. I have seen and played every version of him, whether he is weak or strong. And as a pro play lover, I've gone from cheering and celebrating every time Zac was picked, to sighing and frowning. As a little bonus note, my favorite EU player is Soaz because he plays lots of Zac top in season 3. And my favorite NA player is Medios because his obvious connection to Zac. And here's a bonus fact. I have dedicated so much of my time to Zac on YouTube and Twitter and Twitch, so much that I've even called myself Zac Jungle for a season or 2. Same goes on Twitch, my Twitch account name and Twitter. But that's enough self-promoting and bragging. Now on to the real video. So with the recent Zac news that came from the boards and the posts from the rioters, there has been a lot of discussion and thoughts about whether Zac should be reverted or not. In May 2017, when the tank update was released, there was waves and waves of negative feedback on the Zac rework. Some saying Zac rework was completely unnecessary, myself included, and some saying that Zac's Q was old and needed an upgrade, and some people saying that Zac straight out was not unique and needed a full rework. Now the same discussions are back up and being repeated with the news of Zac Ultimate Revert. This is the exact quote that Riot said. We're currently testing a mostly reverted version of the ult, with a few improvements to help have a clearer gameplay and understandable impact. That quote was over 2 weeks ago, and to me it sounded like it's some early testing of a finalized version of the Ultimate. Now 2 weeks later, we got a confirmation that Zac is getting reverted, though they didn't give out any more information or details on the revert. So this is what I think is going to happen with Zac. They are going to have to change and touch up some of his abilities regardless of what happens, simply because Zac right now is one huge mess of a champion. Let's start with his ultimate, the ability that is confirmed to be reverted. I think they're going to go back on to making Zac into a temporary threat as both a damage dealer, disruptor, and a tank that soaks up damage and heals. They must make it so he has a knock up / knockback on his ultimate when he activates it. They kinda have to let him have the old 4 bounces, though it might have a different strength upon each bounce depending on whether they want to modernize him or not. I hope they simply revert it with potentially more clarity improvements for both Zac and enemies, although I probably preferably wanted the good old ultimate untouched. And since they are reverting his ultimate and giving him some of his old strengths back, this is going to impact Zac's power levels a lot. Whether he gets better or worse is hard to predict, although I think he might land on the more powerful side. In a world where Zac gets to keep his new Q, there are going to be balance issues regardless. While that ability currently prevents him from having a meaningful early game impact, it does help him have an insanely strong gank potential. But he's still going to be miserable playing against really strong early game champions with invade powers, like Xin Zhao, Lee Sin, Kindred, Shaco, and such. That alone will help keep Zac in check in some ways and still have lots of counterplay. But where will Zac become stronger? His old ultimate pretty much deals more damage at any point in the game and could potentially be stronger for all points of the game too. Zac's old ult not only has more base damage, but it allows him to activate his W, which unlocks a lot of damage during a fight. Combine that damage with the CC of the new Q and you get yourself a very strong mid-game teamfight champion, which old Zac already were. But with his new Q, it prevents Zac from falling off a cliff late game, something old Zac did. To me, this sounds like the best of both worlds for Zac. He still brings strong CC in his Q and ER combined. His damage becomes less relevant late game, but Zac still gets to do what he wants to do, which is decide how a teamfight starts and be an annoyance during the teamfight. Zac gets more potential to carry mid game, and is still less reliant on his teammates to carry late game, though those elements still exist in some degree. So, let's discuss the pros and cons of the different versions of Zac that people want. Let's start with the completely reverted Zac, the Zac that was roaming on the Rift happily before May 2017. Let's start with the pros. Old Zac was very fun to play. He had a place in the game when the tank junglers were dominant. He mostly picked to make control around mid. Top lane Zac was played, loved, and viable in solo queue. He could be built as a typical tank, had a magic penetration / bruiser build, full AP, and a supportive game style. He was balanced and easy to balance. He had tons of counterplay. He had many tricks and a surprisingly deep champion mastery. Zac was adaptable game to game basis. He felt unique to play, and he was super OP in nerf. Now let's talk about some of the cons. Let's start with he had a very low play rate. No arguing about that. He was surprisingly strong or weak in a game-to-game basis, which meant he was either very OP or extremely useless. He felt boring to play as a full tank. At least lots of people claim that, although I personally didn't feel that one. He got abused in pro play in some patches where he were straight up broken. Vision counters him hard and he's very annoying to play against. So that's the pros and cons for the first version of Zac, which is a full revert. Try to let me know if you agree or disagree with these lists, because this is just, taken out top of my head. Now, the second version of Zac we want to discuss is the Reworked Zac, the one that is live right now. The pros of this version of Zac is Zac fits the modern tank playstyle. Zac has super clear strengths and weaknesses. He has a stable place in professional play. He brings a unique and super strong ultimate. He became a somewhat viable support champion. And now onto the cons of the Reworked Zac. The Reworked completely changed Zac's gameplay and identity from the old Zac. He feels super frustrating to play. He's a nightmare to play against if you don't have any mobility. He is super unbalanced and is hard to balance. He's a less variable gameplay. He's pretty much full tank any game. It deleted the top lane Zac gameplay, and to top it off, Zac overall feels super clunky to play. Now onto the third version of Zac that we want to discuss is the one where he reverts his ultimate and keeps his new Q, aka what Riot seems to be doing. The pros are, he's going still to feel like a modern champion. He has very strong CC, he is a best of both worlds solution, support Zac will still exist, he will maintain the same strengths of the old Zac and the same weaknesses as the new Zac. Played in jungle, that is. And two new abilities interacting with each other means that there are plays that have yet to be discovered. Now the cons of this version is that it will probably require a lot of tweaking. And it might not work as well as any of the other versions of Zac. It will leave Zac in an uncertain spot for a while. It will probably be just as clunky as the Reworked Zac because the Q is the main part of the clunk. Top Zac will be slightly more playable, but it will still be pretty damn unplayable. So those are the pros and cons of this version of Zac. So what are my thoughts? At the first time, when some random redditor leaked the Zac rework, among with other things, he said the Zac was going to get a Spider-Man slam-like ability on his Q, and a Rise ultimate for enemies as his own ultimate. Back then, I said no, hell, they ain't changing my boy's ultimate. Although I was optimistic about the Q change. Later, when we were presented with the rework, I immediately understood that Riot was changing up Zac's core gameplay a big time, and this was going to leave Zac in a balancing problem for the game. I like the new Q, and I still do. However, the new ultimate was such a big change up in Zac's old gameplay style that I was fine with sacrificing the new Q to keep his old ultimate. So ultimately, I end up with supporting a full revert. But that doesn't mean I don't want to keep Zac's new Q, because it's an amazing ability. But that ability alone kills Zac top lane, so I'm a little bit on and off on it. If Zac ends up with only getting an ultimate revert, I'm still satisfied since I don't think Zac would stand a chance against the current modern top lane champions like Fiora, Camille, Gangplank, Ornn, Riven, Yorick, Urgot. So I only see Zac really half succeeding in winning certain tank matchups like against Maokai, Malphite, Shen, and Dr. Mundo, but who doesn't win those matchups anyways these days. So what should be done with Zac's new ultimate when it gets scrapped from the champion? It's a good ultimate. It's a cool ultimate and it's satisfying to pull up 5 enemies and then, it turns into a huge nuke of a wombo combo. I think it has a place in the League of Legends, but it's not on Zac. So if Riot decides to bring out this ultimate on a new champion in the future, I would be much more excited. It works great for a tanky or a supportive champion after all. So that concludes this long ass video about the Zac revert changes. As you might tell from my voice and the video quality in general, I'm not used to doing this. This is literally the first discussion video I ever made, and I'm super nervous, so I hope I wasn't doing that bad of a job. Please tell me how to improve when the video is done in the comment section below, as you obviously know. Also feel free to comment on what you want in the Zac rework, because that's ultimately the goal of this video.